YouTube University.
Thank you. Seeing how it's 6:15, I will call this meeting to order at exactly 6:15. Okay? And I would look for a motion to go into closed session.
Fessler can make that motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Fessler.
Chapman can second.
Thank you, Chapman.
Okay.
Okay, so we can retire to the,
We need to do a roll call.
Yes,
yes, sorry about that.
that's right. Howery,
Yes,
Mooney. No.
Absent.
Yes, absent. Okay. Fisher, yes. Fessler,
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Okay.
session at 6:16. Okay, let's walk down the hall.
Do we leave our computers?
You can.
Okay.
It'll be safe in here.
Okay.
And
I'll watch your computer.
do I put down 6:16 we're going in?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
so excited because I finally like paid them off like 5 months ago. So I was like, oh, the end is coming.
That's right.
Um,
No, that's a fun day.
So I think we're gonna go out for dinner or something tomorrow.
Oh, and like go out for oh no, you had corned beef tonight.
So we had corned beef tonight, but what's hilarious is that like Cooper's watching film with Willa Kid. Colin had track, and then he's going to Willow's, and so Mike's like, well, I guess I'll just eat by myself. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah.
When they give this to you, they can't look at it.
I don't know what I'm looking, I'm not gonna look at it. Wow! There's
We
so
won't
many
work
people
ahead.
here.
We won't work ahead.
I'm even putting it under my computer. Tom Mooney's all dressed up.
That must be coming right from work.
You're all dressed up.
We're both dressed up.
I thought you were retired.
I work part-time for here.
Oh, that's so uplifting.
Well, thank you. As I said, this is if I get to spend St. Patrick's Day with you people, then you get to be with me in my
Yes.
outfit.
Or whatever it is. No, that's not, if it was not a live link, and I could have probably taken a picture.
Oh, I'm sure we have coffee.
Yes.
Here's the contract.
Professional?
This is the contract.
I am professional in a different way.
That's correct.
Professional character.
I am a professional character.
Yes.
I am a professional Irish woman.
I did that today.
Irish lass.
You have Irish in your.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Really?
I have probably had more fun with my lifetime on St. Patrick's Day than I have ever had any other.
Yes. Right? Yes, my family descends from, or my dad's family descends from Rathlin Island. Yes. So, yes. And so my maiden name is Wilkinson, and the Irish version of it, that's the anglicized, like once the British took over, was McWilkin. I rather prefer that. Not, yeah, those are not my Wilkinsons.
You're not gonna let us take a peek at them early?
Oh, yeah, Angie's not here. I'll take a I'm gonna give it to the board president. We do have one public comment.
Good. Good.
I was wondering if he was trying to come back up here.
So will we do the self-board after then or before?
Well, it will end up being after then.
Okay.
It is 7 o'clock. We were in closed session. We are back in open session, so we will start. Is there anyone on the board that wants to pull out any individual piece or part of the consent agenda? Because we can do that if you care to, otherwise we'll just do it as normal. Being not hearing anybody say they want to, I will assume we don't. So the consent agenda items are as follows. Minutes of the March 3rd, 2025 school board meeting, and general fund vouchers and purchasing card transactions. We request approval for general fund vouchers number 183302 through 183558 and 293216 through 293256, and purchasing card transactions dated 1/21/25 through 2/20/25. There are also some professional staffing recommendations. So I would request a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I can do that.
Thank you, Bruce. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. We also have some personnel items unnecessary for vote. And that moves us along to our public comment section. And it has come to my attention that the esteemed former president of the McFarland School Board, Arlen Halverson, would like to speak this evening. Step forward, please, Mr. Halverson.
I just have a little bit to say, not much, but I sat in the, with the committee, I sat in the back and just listened. And I have to say, to watch it from the beginning and work its way through, and the people that they had come in and talk, it's people that we should have down here talking to everybody, because it's just phenomenal, just phenomenal. And the committee worked very well together. It was going, everybody shared, everybody was respectful. It was a top shelf committee, and it was something to be proud of. Although I got a little thing I'm gonna throw in there, cause I sit in the back, I gotta get my 2 cents in. That's what I'm doing.
Here we go.
And they're gonna go through the process, and you probably know what they're gonna be talking about. You guys have to make a decision on stuff tonight too. But I wrestled with a lot of what they all work through. If you change the name, which is a big deal, and it can be done, and it can, it is always gonna be two sides of a coin on anything that you do, you know what I mean? There's always two sides. But I would rather see it have both names on it than to take one off. He was an important man that did a lot of really good things, and we were just lucky enough that he grew up in McFarland. And a lot of people they don't have that happen, and I never knew that we had it like it did. I remember when Conrad Elvin got named, but I was over here at the high school in 6th grade when that happened, and I was the last class then. But, it was a big deal then, and I forgot about a lot of that, what he was about. And he was a very good person, and some of this gets caught up into, it's not like he threw a punch or anything, but he made a signature someplace and people were offended, but I don't think it was abused. I don't think he did it in meanness. I think all the good things he has worth also. So it's a hard decision for you guys to do whatever you're gonna do tonight. But don't be afraid to be the lone Indian and get your 2 cents in, because you gotta, like anything else, you make your decisions from your heart and your head both. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay, I don't believe we have anything further in terms of the public comments. So we'll move directly into the McFarland High School student report, if we could. Anybody out there?
I think so.
Evie?
There we go.
Hey, there you are.
Yay!
Hi. Sorry, it took me a minute.
It's all right. Better
Yeah.
late than never.
Yeah. Okay. All right, the McFarland High School student report. Okay, so some highlights. So this week is Hope Week at McFarland High, and it's a celebration of self-care, kindness, and hope. To celebrate, today was Cookie Day, and Hope Squad handed out drinks in the morning. Thoughtful Tuesday, we'll paint rocks during advisory. Your Worthy Wednesday will be Class Color Day, and the day the scavenger hunt for kindness clips will begin. And It Takes a Team Thursday is Jersey Day, and there's a surprise of some sort after school, which I genuinely, like, I don't know what it is. And then Stress Friday is Meme Day, and there will be a backpack clean out during advisory.
All right.
Then Do Good Wisconsin Cereal Challenge. For the past few weeks, the student council was collecting cereal boxes. And then I think last week or the week before, they stopped it and we collected 512 boxes of cereal and donated it all to the McFarland Food Pantry. And then our Spartan headquarters received the gold certification for 10 standards of retail business. They earned it in the small business enterprise category. And this was a few weeks ago, but we didn't put it in our last one, so I just wanted to recognize it. And then Twerp was canceled, which was this week. It's reverse proposals. I mean, it was last week. And it was supposed to happen last Saturday, but it was canceled due to lack of participation. Coming up, sophomores are having the Wisconsin Forward exam April 1st to 4th. And then everyone else just has regular school, but they just do it during their world history class. And tomorrow at 8:30, the juniors, which I'm a junior, will begin Reality Zone at McFarland High School. It's a simulation of what real adult life will be like financially to try to prepare kids for the future. And all the juniors have to do it. Concerts, there's a band concert in a few minutes at 7:30 tonight, and state solo and ensemble on April 26th. Actually, yeah. And then the Big Little Dance on Saturday, April 12th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. We're having a Big Little Dance at McFarland High School hosted by DECA, where little kids get to be optionally pampered by high schoolers doing their hair, nails, and makeup at 3, followed by crafts and dancing at 5:30. Make sure to register and pay in advance if you want to go, because I think this will fill up quickly. And at the end of it, I'll ask if you want me to go back, if anyone wants to do that. Athletics. So boys hockey, congrats for a great season. The team played very well in the WIAA state semifinal game against Tomahawk, but came up a little short, literally by 1 point. The coaches and players should be proud of their efforts and season. Boys basketball had a very exciting win over Stoughton in the WIAA regional semifinal and a tough loss to Mount Horeb in the WIAA regional final. Congrats to the athletes and coaches for a good season. Track and field started practice last week, and good luck to all the athletes and coaches. And lacrosse is starting practice this week. Good luck to everyone in lacrosse. Spring break. Next week is spring break, and I hope you guys have an awesome week. And is there any questions, and does anyone want me to go back to anything?
I have a question. You mentioned that the reality zone is tomorrow.
Yeah.
As a junior, what do you anticipate to get out of going through reality zone?
Mm,
Outcome for you.
Wait, could you repeat the last part? Sorry.
Yeah. What outcome do you anticipate you will have personally, having participated in reality zone?
Well, for me, I do handle like some of my own finances. So I don't know if I'll get as much out of it as some people, because I know some people don't do like anything. But I think I'll get a better idea of like the housing market and how much kids cost. If I do have kids, which I probably will. But I know it's random.
Take your time, take your time. Be patient.
And I don't really know, just like a better understanding of how much things cost. Yeah, that's what I hope to gain anyways. I'm not sure exactly how realistic it is, but hopefully it's pretty similar. And just see like how much a living wage has to be, I guess.
We'll see you tomorrow.
That's right. Same.
Is there any other questions or anything?
No, I just wanted to just compliment you. I thought tonight went very, very well. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I just got back from running 1.5 miles from lacrosse.
Oh,
Oh, you're a lacrosse player today?
Yeah.
we never
Well,
would have
good luck.
guessed.
Have you ever played it before now?
Huh?
Have you ever played lacrosse before now?
Yeah, I played it last year. Like, I mean, just for the season though.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's why I did a little shout out to lacrosse. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Evie.
and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Have a good spring break.
You too.
Too.
Okay. What we have decided to do is, rather than strictly adhere to our agenda here, we are gonna move the Citizens Advisory Facilities Naming Committee recommendation and discussion up to now. We, out of respect for you folks' time, we thought we'd move you up and do our thing here, and then there would be no need for you to stick around for the rest of the meeting. So, Mr. Tarnitzer, if you wanna,
Yeah, so
Start
if we
things
can have
off
our
here.
presenting members come on up to the cold seat up front here. Oh, here you go. Yeah, that's right. Make sure to share that microphone. I'm going to get us started and kind of kick us off, and we'll just have them introduce themselves as they come up to speak. I'll share a few things here on the screen at times as part of the presentation. What I'd ask for the board members to do is to please hold your questions till the end so that we can kind of present everything in its entirety. And then there'll be plenty of time for questions afterwards. So tonight, what we're going to do is cover a few things, kind of how do we get here, providing some background and context. Now, this is probably not news to any of us, but we want to also make sure that those who may be watching either live or on recording have a chance to hear the background about how we got here. And then we'll be talking a little bit, Callie will be presenting about the group, the membership, the topics that were discussed, and some comments from members about their experience. Then Yanni will get into some research about some of the things that we found. We found a lot of things. We've been told that we know more about Conrad Alvium than pretty much anybody by the historians. So present that, and then finish up with Matt's going to share the recommendation on the behalf of the group. We also have many committee members in the audience too, who are here to support their other members and answer questions as well.
So
as
they're all
necessary.
open to questioning?
At the end, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're replacing this if we start throwing out.
Yeah, right. I told them that you would be a nice audience. So,
We're very nice.
so I'm going to jump in. I'm going to get some background. And again, this is information. You have this packet in front of you. Please don't look ahead.
I was like, are we allowed to look at it?
Yep, you can look. I'm on page 2 with the background, but these are things that you know. This all began when Riley, who must have been with Evie at lacrosse tryouts tonight. So
Yeah.
Riley sends her regrets that she wasn't able to join. She's looking forward to watching this. So whenever you are watching this online, Riley. And so initially, she brought this forward to the board as a sophomore, now a senior, raising thoughts about Conrad Alvium and specifically related to a few issues, one of which was signing a racial restricted covenant, and we'll talk more about that tonight. The other thing was that at that point, the board decided, let's form a committee to discuss this, make a recommendation to us. And we went through the process of getting close to establishing that, and the timeline was delayed. And primarily, the first reason it was delayed was the board at that time felt that they wanted to get some more information before continuing on. Like, let's see what history we can gather. And Riley and I did a presentation for the board based on some information, primarily gathered from local historian Ron Larson, that had shared with us about the situation. From that, the board affirmed, let's continue with the committee. And at that point, a lot of the board's attention and the community's engagement was focused on the referendum. And so we delayed forming the group until that time. Well, when the referendum failed, that just delayed the process further. That again, that was the focus of our attention. So as soon as in November, when the referendum passed, we began moving forward with this process. You know, part of that issue with the referendum was just that we understand there's a cost associated with renaming and felt like that was sending a really mixed message to our local community. And you'll have a chance to make some decisions about that at some point. So we started recruiting in December and January, and you approved the committee members, and 2 days later we had our first of what was to be 4 meetings, ended up being 6 meetings, and 7 meetings if you count an optional event that some of you attended in the Monona Public Library about racial covenants. So, and I will tell you, there wasn't a meeting that ended on time. So.
There was one that ended on time?
There was not.
Oh, there
Nope.
wasn't. Okay.
We were consistently over time. Just for your reference and included in your packet, there are 2 policies that apply to the situation, one of which is the commemoration of school facilities, which basically establishes only the school board can name a school facility. And therefore, only a school board can rename a school facility. So that's really your role. The committee's role is to make a recommendation to you, which they will be doing tonight. And they serve as a Citizens Advisory Committee, which is covered under Policy 9140, which is also included in your packet. Whatever decision that you make, it's scheduled for a vote on April 7th. Should that vote happen on then there will be a process moving forward. If the board so decides that you will rename the school, then a process would begin for renaming, determining names, and that would be a process we decide together involving the community. And if you decide not to rename, then there's no additional process in terms of renaming, but there may be other components that you wish to carry out. Just a message about decision-making. We define consensus as 60% of the group. That was something we had. We want to be clear with the recommendation when it comes forward. It was not a unanimous decision. There's a difference between consensus and unanimity. It's not my favorite word, not a strength. So that's important to acknowledge that.
How many members total were there? Sorry.
You'll get to hear all the members very soon. 13 members.
Sorry.
13, but one ended up resigning from the group due to other commitments.
Okay.
Yep. And so you can see the policies here. We do want to mention that there were several things that we considered here, which you can see. You know, what can we learn about Conrad LVM? How do you balance the good that someone did with maybe something that they didn't, that was considered bad in quotes? And that there are costs with renaming. That was not a primary focus of the group, however. That is a focus certainly of the board. Should you choose vote to rename, there are expenses associated with that. So I think that covers, yes, my portion. So now I am going to turn it over to our committee to talk a little bit about the meetings and process.
My name's Callie Panko. I'm one of the members of the committee. Real quick, I'm going to read through everybody's names, folks that were on the committee. Dr. James Hickey II, Ella Chopik, myself, Ellie Kaiser, Nathan Wire, Matt Vigil, Yanni McCrae, Melanie Roback, Riley Brown, Easton Charette, Greg Nelson, and Karin Manley. Of that group, there were 2 staff members, 2 students, 9 community members, 8 of whom are parents or guardians of a McFarland School District student, and then 1 person who initially had expressed interest. So just kind of level setting there, just letting you know everybody's names and folks that were, their roles and other roles that they fill within the community.
We did not turn anybody away.
So just to go through very briefly our meeting topics and kind of the structure of our meeting. So the first meeting was just understanding the role of the committee, reviewing the known history of Conrad LVM, reviewing the history of similar school renaming issues. Our second meeting was reviewing additional information, and then like you mentioned, the optional presentation at the Monona Public Library that was entitled Unjust Deeds, a History of Racial Covenants in Dane County. Our third meeting was additional information. Fourth meeting, we met with a historian from the area named Stu Levitan. Our fifth meeting was meeting with historian Dr. Christy Clark-Pujara. She's a parent in the community, she's a community member, and she's also the chair of the UW-Madison Department of African American Studies. And our final meeting was we met with another historian, Gail Martinson, and then she stepped out and we determined our recommendation to prepare for this meeting. So our meeting structure, the big things that we wanted to call out here were our working agreements within our committee. And I know you guys all have this, but I'm gonna read them out loud anyway, because I think they're really important. Willingness to serve and the ability to make the time commitment, be objective and open to others' ideas when sharing and collaborating, control our emotions even when holding strong opinions, stay focused on the shared commitment to young people, the district's educational mission, and the needs of our communities, leave your personal agendas at the door, and assume all members have positive intentions. One of the things we did at our last meeting was we all had to pick one of those out and decide which one of those was important to us for that last meeting where we determined our recommendation, and I thought that was a really good idea, even though by the end people were trying to pick different ones, and it was obviously okay to share because there's only a few there. So the last thing that I'm gonna do before Yanni takes over with some facts is we've got some comments from some of our committee members about the experience. Again, I know you guys have this packet, but for folks that are watching this later or live, I think it's important to read these out loud, so I just wanna read through these fairly quickly. Riley, the student that came forward with this initial project 2 years ago, she said everyone came into this with an open mind and a desire to learn about our community. Each member took the time and committed the effort to read all of our homework and further their understanding with personal research. Another comment, being part of this committee has given me so much faith in the ability of our community to come together to learn and grow and support each other. The information we learned from primary sources, from historians, and from each other helped us make a solid and informed decision. It was an enlightening experience with lots of twists and turns and a very thoughtful group. Like others, I found myself moving back and forth as we learned new information. By the end, we were poring over even finer details of LVM's life and the broader historical context in hope of finding clarity for our recommendation. We all appreciated his life and choices as complex. As we worked toward consensus, I appreciated the many considerations, pros and cons, and careful thinking of this group, and it helped that most of us had at some point felt sympathetic towards each of the two outcomes. This experience with the leadership of Mr. T was exciting, challenging, exhausting, and thought-provoking. This was my first committee experience, and I went in with expectations that were shattered in a very positive way. The group was open to each other's ideas and allowed the information presented and discovered along the way to sway the decision on what recommendation should be made. I was blessed to be part of a group that respected each other and understood the weight of the decision to be made and the impact of that decision, not only on the people it aligned with, but also those that would not be aligned with whatever our recommendation turned out to be. And the last one, being a part of this facility naming committee was a rewarding experience, offering the opportunity to collaborate with a diverse group of individuals who bring unique perspectives and skills. Committee members seemed open-minded from the outset, and everyone contributed to meaningful and thorough discussions. Additionally, I'm thankful for the 4 different amazing local historians who shared their in-depth research with us, which led to a deeper understanding of Conrad Elvium and the time in history in which he lived. So just wanted to give you guys some background on our committee and how serious we took it, and that a lot of people were going both ways. And so next to inform you on the facts is Yanni McFarland.
Hold it right over there. Don't be gentle.
That's right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yanni McCray. I'm a parent of 2 here in the McFarland School District. And on behalf of the Citizens Advisory Facilities Naming Committee, I would like to share the basis of our research. More than anything else, this cohort has committed to relying on factual information. Our history can be viewed with the lens of clarity that comes with time. We insisted on a thorough examination of McFarland's first esteemed figure with both careful consideration and a fine-tooth comb. We would like to extend a special acknowledgement to the following individuals for their commitment to our shared historical knowledge and community engagement. Riley Brown, the McFarland student who as a sophomore brought this concern to the attention of the district. Ron Larson, a McFarland historian whom spent many hours researching Conrad Elvium. Gail Martinson, a historian who has assisted in similar projects for other school districts and spent many hours digging into the archives and presenting many files of information. Stu Leviton, a well-known historian and author who provided context to his previous publications on Madison and Conrad Elvium. It was his work that initially brought this issue to light. Dr. Clark Pujara, a resident, parent or guardian, and the chair of the UW-Madison Department of African American Studies, who presented information about the history of slavery and discrimination in Wisconsin. Leaning into the keepers of knowledge mentioned above, we realized that our task was not just about reviewing what is recorded, but about challenging, revisiting, and ensuring that knowledge evolves over time with a deeper understanding. We reviewed a wealth of resources provided by these highly regarded individuals and shared sugary snacks, often working beyond the allotted time for meetings to allow for questions and debate. Conrad Elvium was born in McFarland, Wisconsin, and educated in Wisconsin schools. He made significant contributions to nutrition science and received numerous acknowledgments for his work. He is particularly recognized for his discovery that the B vitamin called niacin prevents pellagra, a disease responsible for the death of 87,000 Americans in the first half of the 20th century. The disease impacted impoverished communities to a greater degree, with the vast majority of deaths being black females, followed by black males. Elvium was a distinguished academic who was highly regarded for his commitment to the integrity of the institutions he served. In 1931, his signature was listed as number 82 of 106 influential community members and homeowners in the Nakoma neighborhood who signed a document endorsing the addition of a racial covenant to the existing neighborhood covenant. This addition barred the ownership and occupancy of members of Ethiopian descent to any property in the neighborhood. We do not have any evidence to indicate why Conrad Elvium signed the document. Racial covenants, however, were a common socioeconomic practice used by developers, realtors, and neighborhoods both locally and across the nation to uphold segregation. They were often used as an advertising feature, particularly when home sales were lagging, and these covenants were deemed unenforceable by the 14th Amendment in 1948, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, and Wisconsin Act 210 in 2023. Since the beginning of Wisconsin's territorial days, the issue of race has been contested. While history is often told by the victors, we have synthesized factual documents from facilities around the state validating black presence in Wisconsin and the reliance of settlers on trade with indigenous peoples long before the inception of the United States. The historians search for evidence of Conrad Elvium's beliefs and actions related to race and racial discrimination. However, there was little evidence available prior to his death in 1962. They brought forward three main events of note: the racial covenant, a suppression of a film about racial discrimination in 1962, and his statements against a student march but support for a student rally about discrimination in 1962. The historians consistently indicated that the latter two incidents were less relevant to our purpose, as his positions were supported by many who were against racial discrimination, and his actions were taken within his role at UW-Madison and what was in the best interest of the institution. An item of note also includes a letter from one of his daughters who indicated, My dad strongly believed that all people, regardless of economic or social status, race, or ethnicity, should have equal access to education. On the topic of race and political protests, during his administrative roles at UW, a statement from McFarland's own son in 1960 reads, quote, "I share your concern for the preservation and extension of human rights and applaud the decision of the Student Senate in favor of the intellectual approach rather than the emotional approach to protesting violations of such rights." Next, we will allow you to review the evidence and question summary provided to you in your packet, and I will turn it back over to Eric.
Thank you. So you can see some of the sources here that we looked at, and what I'll say is the last one called Gail Martinson Files, that has a lot of resources within it that link to many, 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 many documents, very thorough. So it looks like one item, but it is many. But we just wanted to share that this wasn't items that we, or the committee viewed on their own. These aren't opinions that are based on their own opinions. This is pulled from the information. I am going to summarize a few things for you. The one thing I didn't really point out, and I think I should have, is kind of my role on the group is really as a facilitator. When they made a recommendation, I was not a voting member. I was there to help them get their work done and stay out of their way at times and provide those sugary snacks. So, talk a little bit about Conrad Elvium's biography. This is a nice list. This predominantly comes from the work of Ron Larson. But, born in 1901 here in McFarland, you could see graduated from Stoughton High School, would take a train to Stoughton. And you can see his academic degrees. Married in 1926. He was actually in an apartment before moving into Nakoma. Moved into Nakoma in March or April of 1931. Shortly thereafter, in May, they gave birth to their first child. And he passed away in 1962, so very young. Was UW president at the time. You can see some of his scientific achievements. We talked a little bit about them. Nominated for the Nobel Prize, co-authored many scientific papers, had a really esteemed administrative career. You can see some of the things here. A lot of leadership on many councils, research, a lot of awards and recognitions. I'm not going to read them all to you, but they are all there. So really a lot of honors and recognitions for Conrad Elvium. The three main issues we have here are the covenant. And so what we know, as Yanni explained, he was one of several people that in the Nakoma neighborhood, what they did was they really signed a petition endorsing adding a racial covenant to the existing covenant in the neighborhood. And that was notarized and approved in July of 1931. So he had been there for a few months before signing that. Then he and his wife signed that document, among others. Not all of the community members did sign that. What we did with each of the topics is we separated into evidence supporting renaming and evidence that would not support renaming, just to show that the committee really wanted to look at it from all perspectives and, for lack of a better term, sort of devil's advocate. Very critical thinkers this group was, which explains why our meetings were as long as they were. But it was useful. So you can see the evidence here that would reference renaming. Obviously there's an impact of these covenants. The Unjust Deeds presentation that some of you attended really made that clear, and the impact of housing segregation on generational wealth is well established historically. And as I mentioned, not everyone did sign that. And the most famous person in the neighborhood not to sign it was Oscar Rennebaum, if any of you know that name. Evidence that related to the covenant that would not support it, these were very common at the time. There was pressure. There was pressure, and these were often used as a tool to address lagging home sales in areas which it appears there may have been in Tacoma at the time. And there's also, as Yanni explained, no direct indication of his intentions. We don't know why he signed it. We just know that he signed endorsing this edition of the racial covenant. The film and the protests I'm gonna touch on quickly because as Yanni explained and as the historians made clear to the committee, these appear to be issues. He was in his role as UW president, and there's a variety of ways to look at this. So you had a housing discrimination video that was made, and it had been endorsed initially by the university, and it used undercover footage and video. When it came time to when they saw the raw footage, the university felt uncomfortable sharing that, felt that it wasn't appropriate due to privacy concerns. And so they said, we're not going to release this. They ended up releasing a transcript of it, what was said, and eventually recreated a couple of the scenes from it, reenacted it. And, at that time, there was really mixed reviews. Some people felt like, okay, they understood the Wisconsin Civil Liberties Union, the National ACLU, and the UW Senate both agreed with Elvium and the dean's stance on that, while others felt very strongly against it. The NAACP, Americans for Democratic Action, and a U.S. Representative, Clayton Powell, spoke out against it. So, you kind of weighed both of those together. It was a difficult decision at a difficult time. If the board is interested, you can see the raw footage in its entirety. We have a link that was shared with the committee members. I watched it. It's very powerful. I will tell you, it is very powerful. And they also interview some of the people at the time. Student protests. There was a movement to have a rally. This had followed some Woolworth protests. Down south, there had been some sit-ins and things in Woolworth stores due to their segregation. Well, Woolworth wasn't segregating up here, and there had been some protests and action in Madison at that time. Shortly thereafter, students were planning to do a march up to the Capitol to protest discrimination. And at that time, Conrad Elvium spoke out against the march and suggested they have a rally. He felt that he wanted to have something more organized, constructive, educational, and you heard Yanni read a statement from that. That was another one where you sort of see this mixed review. Some people disagreeing with his stance, and others, including the UW Student Senate, supported his approach. And the rally was held, and his full statement is something that the committee read, and we read a portion of tonight. So those are kind of the main, incidents that we looked at. What I would say is the committee ended up deciding to really focus more so on the covenant while asking a lot of questions and learning from the other two incidents. Anything you would add to my summary?
That's good.
That's thinking.
I'm thinking, but I do have to.
Yeah, okay. Thinking's good.
Good, I'm glad you
Yeah,
were
I
on the
think once in a
committee.
while, once in a while.
And there's a lot more information. I also included a summary of the evidence as an extra handout for you to see. That's a document that kind of got updated throughout our process after each historian. All right, I think I'm ready to turn it over to Matt for the recommendation.
So I'm just gonna read this. I was thinking about maybe performing it in a monologue version, but I'll just
Yeah.
read it instead.
Do your best.
This is a little bit too long for me to memorize in a couple of days. So as Aaron said, the process for making the decision was 60% agreement versus unanimous decision. It was actually quite fun and interesting for us to kind of set up a spectrum here along the wall. Over here was definitely don't rename, and over there was definitely rename, and then we stood in various places and kind of just talked about why we felt the way we felt. So I felt like that was an important and insightful way to do it. So thank you for setting that up, Aaron. So I'm just going to read this. In alignment with our district's mission, vision, and commitments, we respectfully recommend that the name of Conrad LVM Primary School be changed and establish a display/exhibit to acknowledge Conrad LVM's legacy. This recommendation is made with the school district's commitments of belonging, continuous improvement, and compassion at the forefront of our decision. While Conrad LVM made remarkable contributions to the field of nutritional science and served as a distinguished president of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, his name is also connected to a documented event in 1931 when he was one of 106 people who signed a petition to change the neighborhood covenants in Tacoma to exclude people of color. Though historical context suggests this action may not have defined his full character, the name of a school should reflect our present-day commitment to belonging and inclusivity for all students, families, and community members. This recommendation is not a condemnation of Conrad LVM, nor an attempt to erase history, but rather a reflection of our responsibility to ensure that every student and family, regardless of their background, feels fully welcome and valued in our schools and community. The name of a primary school should be one that unites and inspires, a name that reflects the students and families we serve today while upholding the district's core commitments. At the same time, and in order to represent those who may feel unrepresented with this recommendation as important and vital part of the community, we believe it is imperative to honor Conrad LVM's legacy in a way that better represents the full picture of his life and growth. We recommend that the district, in partnership with the community, create a museum-quality prominent display that represents him not as a perfect figure, but as a man who demonstrated the value of continuous improvement, one of our district's guiding principles. This display should serve as both an acknowledgement of his flaws and appreciation of his achievements, showing how he grew beyond this stain on his legacy to become a great leader and scientist. It should also reinforce that this name change is not a rejection of his accomplishments, but rather a decision to ensure that our schools remain focused on the needs of our students and the people of McFarland today. We recognize that changing the name of a school is a complex and challenging process. However, given what we know now, if the school were unnamed today, we likely would not choose Conrad LVM as its name. To move forward, we propose that a committee be formed to explore alternative school names that better reflect our district's values. This process should be transparent and invite input from students, staff, parents, and the wider community, ensuring the new name reflects our shared vision. Furthermore, we believe that funds should be raised concurrently to support both the cost of renaming the school and the creation of a museum-quality display about Conrad LVM, ensuring that his contributions are recognized while reflecting our community's values. We appreciate the board's thoughtful consideration of this recommendation. Our goal is to uphold the McFarland School District's mission, vision, and commitments, which include our commitment to belonging, continuous improvement, and compassion, not just in words, but in actions that shape the experiences of our students and our community. Changing the name of a school sends a message to students that while you can and should embrace a growth mindset and learn from past mistakes, your decisions matter and have lasting impacts alongside your own noble endeavors. So it's important that they align with your values and the legacy you want to leave.
Thank you. So I believe that concludes what the committee was hoping to present. So it is a discussion, so we're open to your questions and comments. As a reminder, you are not making a decision this evening. It is scheduled for a vote on April 7th, which provides an opportunity for the community to review this information and provide public comment at the start of the April 7th meeting or via email or connecting directly with board members.
So I have a question. First and foremost, you guys did an amazing job. So kudos to y'all. My question actually has more so to do with the precedent of renaming. So in the notes, it showed that the UW Art Museum was changed from the LVM Art Museum to the Chazen Museum of Art. Do we know if the covenants was reasoning behind that renaming?
We do. It was because of a donation, not
Oh,
because of
okay.
covenants.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yes, that was
Yes.
one of our early questions.
Okay.
Just to make sure that got on the microphone, a committee member shared that we know that the museum, the Chazen Museum of Art, was renamed due to a sizable donation.
Okay, thank you.
We're not aware of anything that has been named after Conrad Alvium that has been renamed because of this issue, to our knowledge.
And we do know that Madison's Elvium Elementary School renaming has been put on hold, correct?
They're in the process.
Of
It's
going
on
through
the
the-
list.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, it's on their
They're
list.
going to address it this year.
I thought they
And-
were, and then it got
Well, it sounded to me like they had decided more or less.
to move forward,
It is on the list of schools to rename. It's just
Okay.
that they had
various
others in
ones.
front of it.
Okay,
And the Alvium Neighborhood Association is also watching what we're doing here and considering renaming
okay, thank you.
as well.
I want to just thank you guys. I'm like literally in awe of what you've put together. At the same time, I don't know if my brain can only handle so much, but I felt like I was being almost force-fed, and I'm going like, I'm not digesting everything that's being said.
That's okay.
Could I have you, if you don't mind, turn to page 9? There's a couple of things that I would like to have some further explanation on. And that would be that, I guess it's the continuation of, it would be a third paragraph there, it looks like it's third. So, the historians search for evidence, did everyone find that? And at the bottom says, the historians consistently indicated that the latter two incidents were less relevant to our purpose, as his positions were supported, I gotta make sure I'm talking in the mic here, were supported by many who were against racial discrimination, and his actions were taken within his role at UW-Madison and what was his best interest of the institution. And I just was wondering if someone could explain that in a little bit more detail. I wasn't quite sure I understood it. I know that there's 3 different categories you're looking at, and it's the latter two that you're, and so.
So the covenant was, I mean, obviously, like you said, we
That-
don't know
Right.
why he signed that. He could have felt pressure from his boss. He could have did it because his wife said so.
Yeah.
Somebody came by with a piece of paper. We won't know why,
Yeah.
but that was of his own doing. Whereas the other two were when he was serving as the UW president, so he had a lot more, a bigger group to, I guess, worry about, maybe? Maybe that's not the right way to phrase it. Yeah,
Well, I would say also with one of the items in question, the rally, it seemed as though it was more of a concern with an early issuance from a newspaper that's like put it in a very negative light, as if he was opposing the protest altogether. And then when the full description and his full quote came out about what he had actually said, it was deemed that he was in support of them protesting, just not in support of them marching down State Street, because that had been an issue the week prior, I believe. And so he was trying to confine that more, but he applauded them for standing up for what they believed in.
Okay.
The other item, it seemed as if it was
the
being,
film.
yeah, the film seemed as if it was being kind of of less importance, because there were so many. I mean, there was a lot of differing views. Right?
I mean, there was a moral issue there with filming people without their consent and
Yeah.
recording people without their consent. So where, again, we'll never know. Maybe his personal beliefs, he was maybe okay with that. But as serving as the UW president, morally and ethically, he couldn't be behind putting this film out into the world, because there were no signed releases from the people in this video, and he couldn't stand behind that as the UW president.
So apparently they had received the idea, or had got the idea from Candid Camera to do
Yeah, that's what
this recording without people's knowledge, and then realized that Candid Camera, when they recorded people, not this situation, but when they recorded people, they had gotten
Yeah.
permission to actually show those things. And so the question became, is it morally ethical for us to release this information without their consent?
I would also like to acknowledge that there are 2 typos in the 3rd paragraph.
Yes, yeah.
Serving as U.S. president?
I did omit those from my verbal portion.
You did a good job improvising.
Yeah, you did great.
That should say
I would've said
UW president.
Yeah, serving as UW.
Well,
Well, thank you, 'cause I didn't even spot that, so.
It glazed right over it, and I was like, oh no.
I saw that too.
Answer your
Well, it did, and
Autocorrect.
if you don't mind, I'd like to have that same explanation for that next paragraph where it just said,
I will give you a little bit of insight on
Yeah.
that next one.
Thank you.
So, the last paragraph reads with a quote from a letter from one of his daughters.
Yes.
So we used the historians to reach out because we wanted to know about the character of Elvia. Was he this way or that way? We didn't expect sensation from a scientist.
Or emotion.
or for this person to be esteemed for being illogical. We expected him to operate with ration, much like a scientist would. And in doing that, we received a letter of response from his daughter, Penny Henninger. And this is incorporated into the direct words from his response to the protest while in his chair position at the University of Wisconsin, I believe in 1960. One of the articles that we reviewed is a direct source from the context of that time. And they go hand in hand because we are here today with the same topics at hand of home ownership and social justice and race and school and how those are all intertwined. So the 2 statements connect because they speak to the man's own words. And they speak to his character as a person and not just as a figure.
Thank you, all 3 of you.
I don't know that I have any questions necessarily, but what I echo both Bruce and Megan, but the work that has gone into this is incredible, moving even. I think in this day and age of cancel culture, it makes it extra hard to figure out what is the right process and where is that threshold, right? And you're all nodding, that's obviously like why we set it up this way, but I think we have to be really careful to let people make mistakes and learn from them, and regardless of how I feel about it or what I end up voting on, I think your recommendation really brings both of those things together. So I appreciate all that thought into all of those things that the whole committee did.
Yeah,
So thank you.
thanks.
I did have one more question. So I'm looking at the biography and the timeline.
What
Of-
page?
Page 11.
Page 11. Thank you.
Under personal life, the timeline from when he moved from an apartment to his home in Tacoma in March, April of 1931. Do we know when he signed the covenant in 1931? What month?
Well, we know that it was officially entered into the record on July 3rd. We don't know when exactly
Okay.
he signed it. We think it was not all signed on the same day, but that's when it was, the meeting was held and
Okay,
this was
somebody stamped.
stamped it.
okay.
So it was somewhere in there.
I think it's also important to note that, Gail had told us that it wasn't as if this document for signatures was taken one day,
Oh, I'm sure.
but that it was presented numerous times to people in the community to sign. So if somebody wasn't there, that day, then they would have had the opportunity to sign it again later.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that was-
in fact, somebody signed it twice.
Yeah, there was somebody that signed it twice. There were some people that weren't homeowners in the Tacoma neighborhood that had signed it. So Gail had suggested maybe there were people building homes and somebody came by with the clipboard, hey, do you want to sign this? And so there may have been some people that didn't even have homes in the I mean, there were people that didn't have homes in the neighborhood that signed this as well.
Okay.
So there's.
Really?
In the research that was compiled by Gail Martinson, she also was able to use the U.S. Census records and state archives to locate the roles of the people who signed the covenant. And their jobs and titles were quite impressive, even by those standards, as well as sort of some of the plots that were originally there in comparison to the signatures that made it to the petition. So she argued that the majority that was obtained in order to enforce the covenant and to have it added to the neighborhood document that existed was questionable at best.
In 1930, there were
Yeah.
125 households in the Nakoma neighborhood and 106 signatures in 1931.
Does it say how many were from the same household again, like husband, wife?
It's broken
It
down.
does.
It is broken down,
It
okay.
has
So that-
Thank you, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, we can share all that.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, Megan, why did you ask that question?
Well, going back to the conversation of, or the point about if, you know, if he felt any kind of pressure, seeing that it is such a short timeline between when he moved in to when it went through, it gives me pause, that's all.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would say that we considered that heavily, and it was ultimately decided, and especially, I think, in light of what Gail had suggested in the last evening of, that it must have been, her expertise would say that it was difficult for them to attain the number of signatures that were needed for it. So him signing it may have been more meaningful in that because there were people who rejected signing. So getting that, majority of signatures in the neighborhood, there were plenty of people who said no.
Okay.
Then that's what she had said.
Did he ever make a public comment about any of this after the fact? Okay.
Not that we could find.
That's one of the challenges.
That would have been super helpful.
Right?
That was
Like, I'm so sorry I signed this.
That
You
was
know.
one of the things that the group talked about was that, I mean, he died, I think, from a heart attack at his desk while he was at work when he was 61, and just everything that happened in the 60s. If he would have lived a decade longer, we'd maybe know some more.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, more interactions with students on campus and more public statements, but we won't know, unfortunately.
Another thing that Gail had said is that had he lived to not be UW president any longer, they would have done an exit interview and asked him his thoughts on pretty much everything. But because he died at his desk, or soon thereafter, they didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, she said they do that with all, like, UW presidents as they leave. And we were like, man, that would have been really cool.
It made it easier, for sure.
I certainly want to thank the committee for all the work and the amount of time that you put into this. I appreciate the report tonight, all factual information, and I think it's great. In depth, I've learned a lot more tonight than I knew before coming in. I only wish that we had had the report before the meeting, so I
Yeah.
could have digested it earlier.
Yeah.
You saw that I rarely looked up there or report. Rather, I was looking at you as the speakers. You spoke with passion, commitment, determination, and a sense of caring for the whole community, beyond just our community, but out there also. But I do have one question, and the question is this: how is the 60% versus 40% decided? You know, if 60% of the members voted for something, why was it 70% or 80% for that consensus?
I think, you can go ahead.
Why did we decide on 60?
Yes.
Yeah, well, at least 60.
We decided on at least 60 because that would have been more than half of the group of 12 present, with the moderator and witness. The activity that Matt mentioned, which we partook making our recommendation, required each member to review a booklet of information. We came in, we were ready. We said, do we have further questions? Do we have further comments? And we participated in what was called taking a stand, where rather than having a vote of just hand raises, members had to choose a place on a spectrum or continuum of where they stood on the issue. After doing so, there was a variety of stances and places and opinions, and we were able to navigate from those who were strongly opposed to those who were strongly in favor. And you were able to voice your concerns and your opinions wherever you were on the spectrum without a need to be influenced by the opinions of others. Doing so had established consensus before the debate began, but it gave comfort and it allowed for the sharing of opinions, which directly came into the document that is before you. The considerations that were raised by members who are not in favor of renaming have been incorporated into the recommendation before you today.
I would just to add to that I think was really, as an observer of this, was that people, when they provided their rationale, they spoke about where they were at different points of their time in the committee. You know, they were standing on one place and they said, I was way over there.
Okay.
I walked into here over there, and then I ended up over here, and then I was over there. And they explained how the evolution of their thinking, and that was really interesting, I think, to hear that, you know, people really were undecided, many of them almost until the moment that they found a place to stand.
And I certainly understand that. As a board member, I've gone back and forth also, ever since the discussion started. But again, why 60%? Why not 70% or 80%?
Who came up with the 60%?
I proposed it.
Yeah.
I proposed it to the group, and they thought that was rational. So just more than a simple majority. I will say that although that was our minimum, the final recommendation did exceed that threshold.
By much, Aaron? Or? Okay. And then my last question is, of those that did not fall into that 60% or 65%, was that a cluster of staff, or not staff, cluster of representatives in that committee versus the other cluster? You know, were two clusters formed? And was there any similarities within each cluster?
The members of the group all represent stakeholders in the community. So there is no dichotomy between who agrees or doesn't agree, because at some point we've all been in each area of the spectrum based on the information that was presented, and our own personal bias and perspectives. As we work together through the factual information, and that's why it was important to me to present that portion of our presentation, rather than leaning to emotion, we did choose to operate in logic and reason to reach agreement. And on some things, we agreed to disagree. There was no particular split of who or how or which group belonged to which side. We're all stakeholders in the community.
I would also say that, that it was, Aaron set it up brilliantly, because there was an opportunity for people to give their rationale behind what they deemed as important information and why they were standing where they were standing, and the opportunity was given then for anyone else to move along the spectrum as they decided, like, oh, that's really actually a good thought, you know, and move back. And there was movement as well. So.
Yeah, that was my question. I wasn't sure when this was done. I was wondering, was this done before you really got into it, or it was at the very end? Yeah, okay,
Yeah, this was
wonderful.
last Wednesday
Okay,
Yeah.
in this room,
yeah,
This room.
on that wall.
yeah,
And
yeah, I
would
understand.
say, too, that if you looked at where people fell, you know, you have the two extremes, right? They were much closer to this middle, you know, and it was really, really close. It definitely clustered on the side of renaming. But it really was, you know, the range kind of shrunk. So I think that's important for you to know, that it wasn't as though
It
there
is.
was, you know, some people were just right down here and some people were right down, that's not how it was. That's not how it was.
So one other question, this is just given the financial scope of things. You know, over the last year, we went through the referendum, and we're so thankful to the McFarland community for supporting the referendum. I did want to thank you for actually including a piece about raising funds. But as part of that, did the financial piece come up in conversation at all?
Yes.
Okay. Just curious.
It's included at the forefront because members of the committee say, hey, who's gonna pay for that? And what will our other citizens think of that? So the opinions of taxpayers were kept in mind, as well as those who may donate later, others who may choose to contribute. It was one of the first topics that came up.
Okay.
Yep.
I will say that it's important, the part of the recommendation, which you already have heard, but that concurrently, the funds are raised for the renaming, if that's the decision, along with that prominent display, because it is very important to this committee that Conrad Albion is viewed and highly regarded for the things that he's done, but also with a real picture of the full man, right? And so, but it was an important piece on that topic of raising those funds concurrently, so that it's not, you know, the can kick down the road, so to speak, as far as like the display of him and his life and achievements.
So would this be an opportunity for the group or the district to work collaboratively in partnership with the McFarland Historical Society?
Could be.
Because I think there's something already there. We're talking about expanding upon it. But I think we should be working jointly with the Historical Society.
Yeah, the consensus that we came up with as a group, and maybe I'm misspeaking, so please correct me if I'm wrong, was that we thought that it should be in a prominent place within the school.
Okay.
Because it was the school's name, or potentially, right? And so that people that wouldn't go to a historical society that go to the school can see it easily, interact with it, however that ends up looking, but can read about the man Conrad Albion.
Of course,
Yeah, and I
that
would
can
say-
go the other way as well. There'll be the people who would go to the historical museum,
True.
but
Yeah.
their
Yep.
kids are long gone,
Yeah,
so.
that is true.
You know, it goes both ways.
Yeah, it
yeah.
does.
It
Thank you.
was something we discussed quite a bit too at the end, and I know, Jim, if you'd like to share, you can share your thoughts.
Hey, thanks. Maybe I'm an outlier.
Do you want a chair so you can?
No, I'm good. But, you know, I think if, this is my own personal opinion, kind of, I don't know, but whatever the district board adopts, to me, that's a district commitment. And to go out and try to raise funds for that, and have a group out here trying to raise funds, to me, it just doesn't make sense. You know, maybe they have a committee, the district has some funds, but, and you got a group out there that wants to fundraise, but I think the district owns it, the district should come through with it. And I understand, these maybe aren't the times, and things might have to wait. But the bottom line is, I just feel real strong about that, for whatever it's worth. You know, I don't know, I mean, have other groups had to go in the school district and have a fundraiser to name things? I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah, so you gotta kind of look at that, I think, and there's maybe other things up on the horizon, but, yeah, so that's kind of my thought.
Just-
For what it's worth.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure, I guess maybe I even outlaw it, which is fine.
So just so the viewers at home, in case you couldn't pick that up, is,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay, it's okay. Dr. Hickey was just sharing that, there's a perspective that the district has a responsibility, should it choose to rename, to provide the funds to facilitate the renaming process instead of going to fundraising, going to the community and asking for funds, and that's his perspective. Oops.
So one thing he did bring up was timing. So I know we're not voting on this tonight, obviously. So let's say, we do decide to move forward. What does the timeline look for that long term? Like, when would we look to possibly have it renamed by?
It's really at the board's discretion.
Okay.
So the question is, when would rebranding take place?
Because there's a lot of
If-
things
if there was a
associated
name
with that.
change.
It's really at the board's discretion.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I was gonna say.
no pressure.
Yeah, I mean, there's no,
I will say that the recommendation, though, that we had was to form another committee to decide on a name, so I imagine that'll take some time.
Yeah.
And that timeline could also be part of that committee's job
Right.
as well, to lay that out.
mm-hmm.
I would also acknowledge, if you read the paper today, the right-hand column of the State Journal, relative to Madison, there's some struggle there. The teachers are, like, why did the district pay to rename, rebrand the different high schools?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And all that,
The
so.
logo is,
For Madison?
I recognize that, absolutely, and that's probably maybe another reason, well, that, you make, whatever your decision is, and hey, it's like anything else, you have to budget for it somewhere down the line and look at how it all fits in.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I have
how-
another comment, but, yeah, anyway, so.
Go ahead.
Well, I think
No,
that's,
that's good, anyway. So,
sorry.
but take a look at that article. I mean, the teachers' union is very upset about that. in
It's
light
staff
of-
allocation, isn't it?
Staff
They
allocation.
were
Are you
talking about-
familiar
Yeah,
with
That's
what
kind of what you have to
Jim is
mix
talking
in, and
about?
That's why maybe an outlier, and you say, okay, community go and raise funds for this, and, I don't know. This fundraising stuff kind of gets to it. Anyway.
Well, and I think a clarification, and I don't want to speak for all of us, but the way we've kind of always approached this is that it was two decisions, really.
Yeah.
That it was, do we rename or do we not rename? And then, do we allocate funds? Do we figure out a different way to fund? Do we put it on on hold until we have more funds, but that they're two separate decisions. So I think once we get past next Monday, then we decide after that.
It sounds like the committee understood those are two separate decisions to be made, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you for keeping
didn't-
those separated.
As a facilitator, I didn't want the committee I wanted them to do what they thought was right, based on the information they had, whatever the case may be, and not to feel that burden of the financial concerns in their decision.
Okay.
That's a burden that you, unfortunately, will have.
And there was one other decision, was just, should we even have a committee study this? And that was, we had to vote on that first, so. I was just gonna ask, anyone back in the peanut gallery who would like to
Anybody
comment?
else want to share
to
anything?
your-
I was gonna ask the same thing. I would
Go ahead.
appreciate hearing anything that any of the other members back there would like to share.
I think Yanni and Kelly and Matt would be happy to.
Yeah, I'll give up the chair, but just so that everybody knows, Aaron shared this Google Doc with all of us, and all of us kind of helped write all of this together.
Cool.
People obviously can say whatever they want. It wasn't just me like reading the one section and
Yeah, it's
Yanni,
not
like
like
we
you
all
wrote.
we all had a.
I think we assume it was a collaboration.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure.
Right up until not long ago.
Right up
today.
until now, when I'm the only one still sitting here.
You didn't even
But I wanted to ask, they had, you said a packet, Matt, you were given.
It's all the information that's
Can
provided.
we, I mean, this is something that, I
Yeah, I'll
mean, to
give you
really
access
digest
to
it,
everything.
I gotta go through this. This is a lot of information.
Aaron, is this document available to the public?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Once we correct the typos.
Right. Yeah, US president. Yeah, okay.
And
You know, that was just double checking to make sure we were actually
Yes.
reading it as well. So thank you, thank
Yep.
you.
And it was why I displayed it too while we were going through
Yeah.
it too. It's not.
Aaron, could you send us, or me, the link to the film?
Oh, I would like that as well.
Yeah,
same.
I'll send you a link to all of the resources. That includes that as well.
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's,
Try not to be too overwhelmed with
it
all
is
the resources.
overwhelming. Yes, it is
I'm sure it
overwhelming.
will, but thank
Anybody
you.
else got any?
Any committee members, anybody else want to say anything? I mean, no pressure, it's opportunity.
Well, I think, you know, from my observations, it was a struggle, right down to the end, if you will. And I think, for me, personally, with the consensus, I think that paragraph on page 16 kind of sums it up. You know, let's see, I think that's the one. Nope, that's not it. Oh, I know what, hang on, oh darn it, there was one that, it's actually one Fisher called on.
Yeah.
It's on page 11.
This is page 9 that I was on, Jim.
Yeah, it's at 9, I don't know how. Shoot, I'm gonna let you hang it then, unfortunately, let me look here. But that really, you know, oh God, I should find it now that I open my mouth, huh? Let's see. Yeah, shoot, maybe I thought I marked it in. Oh, yeah, go to page 16, second paragraph, looks like the last sentence in a second. Though historical context suggests this action may not have defined his full character, okay? The name of the school should reflect a present-day commitment to belonging and exclusivity for all students, families, and community members. That one, you know, hit me personally. You know, that sentence, through, though, historically, you know, and that gets back to the cancel culture, whitewashing, you know, but that sentence really kind of hits it. And then, I being a historian, I think I'm kind of once in a while, the exhibit on Conrad Albion can be quite, there's so many things that can be said, even about what this committee's found, and it could include, not, it could talk about Conrad Albion, but it can also discuss naming processes or canceling out history. You know, there's all kinds of things there. So, anyway, so that was my end of it. That's my peanut gallery for what it's worth.
Curiouser and curiouser.
So let me ask you this, because I'm going back and forth in my mind. You know, you all know that I was involved in the school for 27 years. You know, I bonded with the Conrad Albion name. That's what hundreds, thousands of students came through. Parents associated that name with our culture and our environment. The committee seems to have done a good job separating emotion from fact. How do we convey that same type of process to the community so they have a better understanding of the rationale if we decide to change the name?
large portion of our latter meetings, we spent trying to settle on what was the best way to provide this information to the community. For a time, we threw the idea out of public information sessions. For a time, we considered history days. We considered using local media outlets. Ultimately, that responsibility fell a little bit on the board. Firstly, for time purposes, we didn't want to extend our committee any farther. But all of us were very dedicated to ensuring that there was an education piece associated with whatever the outcome might be. Because to the committee, it was important that we educate the wider group that this is not a condemnation of Conrad Elville. However, if it is decided that his name will no longer be carried on the school, that doesn't take away from his accomplishments as a scientist. So the education piece on that was to provide the public with better information than Google, and that is the reason for the resources that we dug into so far. And that's the reason why we sought out so much information from trusted sources, so that way we could provide that body of knowledge to you to provide better education to the public at large.
And that makes sense. Again, I still have that emotional dilemma. I'll have it in 2 weeks when we vote on this.
And people will, I'm sure we'll hear from people who will have the same. So
I'm
it's,
sure.
so
Yeah.
it's,
That is something that I think, Melanie, I think maybe you brought that up about, it is nice to have, you said it better, but to have buildings that are named after people instead of just, you know, the Rock Library or the Lamp School. I mean, it's cool to have stuff named after a person, and nobody's perfect. It's the messiness of being human. There's good and bad, and again, like Yanni said, this is not a condemnation of Conrad Elvium as a person. It's the education of the whole thing. And when Dr. Clark Pujara came in, her example was you can admire and abhor somebody at the same time, and she referenced Thomas Jefferson, that she appreciates and loves his writings about freedom and all that, but then he was also a slaveholder, and so she can abhor that side of him. But there's both sides, and it's an and conversation, not
Right.
or.
Well, given our ability today, we've got instant information. Do we dare continue to name schools after people, without vetting them in such a way, that every time it would be this long, drawn-out procedure? Are we gonna end up with McFarland Primary School, McFarland Middle School, and McFarland High School? Or PS, 8, like they do in a lot of urban, centers? And you're right, nobody is perfect. The problem, I don't know if it's a problem, but the situation today is such that we're able to find out how not perfect people are, or how, there really is no longer any closets, there are no longer, our concern, I think one of the dilemmas we've got is that an action that took part 100 years ago, do we hold that to today's standards? Or do we go research what the standards were 100 years ago, and then make a decision, how much good does it take to negate this much bad? What, did he have to do more? I don't know how much more he could have done. obviously, there's much to admire about the man. And again, there may be some character flaws as well. Go ahead, man.
So one consideration that was brought up when we were in the final debate was the fact that things are so easily found on Google, right? Whether factual or not.
Exactly.
That's the,
the people will make a determination about what McFarland School District represents,
Right.
whether or not it's true,
Yes.
based off of what they find on
Yes.
Google.
and I suspect that there will be a contingent that no matter how much you say, this is not a condemnation on Conrad Albion, they're gonna disagree.
100%, yeah, and that was certainly a consideration, which we felt that the compromise to that was to be able to represent the man and honor him in a different way.
I just want to thank you, because I've heard from various people that you did an outstanding job, Aaron, and it's very difficult. And I really like the fact, I was a former teacher, and it bothers me that I missed that UW, because as a history teacher, I used to love to get spelling errors and stuff like that. But the truth is, I'm so glad that you made the educational component important. And just as kind of an aside, if any of you have never been to the Lincoln Museum in Springfield, go. It is phenomenal, because they deal with this right there. They say, by our standards today, this president, who we all admire, would be probably considered pretty racist. And they take it head on. They don't try to beat around the bush and kind of hide it. They take it right on. And quite honestly, you leave kind of like, okay, now line up against the wall. Where are you going to stand here? And it's beautiful, because that's what this is all about. It's to learn. And I love the way this whole thing has been handled, but now it gets a little kind of dicey.
I think we all understand how difficult this was. We were party to a fair amount of information, and I think we as a board thought we had a fairly good idea of how we should act and what we're gonna respond to. We learned that there was a whole lot more to this initiative and this process than he signed a covenant. He was a UW president that probably saved hundreds of thousands of lives with the research that he did. So that's why, and I think I can safely speak for the entire board, that we are so thankful for your willingness to step in and address what we all know is gonna be controversial. There are just, different demographics and different backgrounds. So this is gonna be like any other big decision the board makes. There's gonna be 48% that hate you and 52% that love you. And that this is just one of those situations where I think you're emphasizing the educational piece will make that less of a factor, I think. Because I think, right thinking folks, sitting back and just objectively looking at something, the facts are out there. There's plenty of facts for people to make their decision. But it doesn't make the decision any easier. It really doesn't. So, anyway, like I say, we want to respect your time, but we do understand how difficult this was. Everyone was impressed by the collaboration between those on this side and that side, and were able to do things in a professional, upfront manner. And I just can't possibly thank every one of you enough, and all of the people that you used as resources, all the historians. Ron Larson, he graduated a year behind me here at McFarland. I think he's a 72 grad at McFarland. And he's been a historian since he was in his 20s. So you can take what Ron says to the bank. I will guarantee you that. I like the idea of, somehow involving the Historical Society in this as well. It does my heart well to know that we have community members and staff people that care enough about your schools and care enough about what we're teaching your kids, not just in the classroom, but how we comport ourselves. I can't, there are no words how much I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Craig, if I could just add one more thing. It's a what if. What if Riley had never come to the board a couple years ago with her idea of, we should take a look at the name Conrad Delvium School? Is because a student, a sophomore here, and I think a lot of it was, can be attributed to the teacher she might have had, the courses she had, maybe it's the family that she came from. But what if she had not come? Would we have had this discussion? Or would we have continued on courses where we are?
I feel convincing at some point we would have.
I
At some
think
point.
that it is valuable to have these conversations initiated here,
Yeah.
rather than to result from pressure from outside of McFarland.
Yes.
Well
I
said.
think that the opportunity is before you to set a trend, and whichever way you decide, that will have a weight and a wave and a consequence for the surrounding area and perhaps other areas as well.
Is it appropriate
We'll take
that,
on that responsibility.
Signed up for.
Yes, we will.
and Arlen, I'm not sure it's appropriate, but thank you for your speaking before. That was nice too. Thank you.
And for coming to all the meetings, and he didn't get any sugary snacks. I don't think. Maybe we slipped.
And Aaron, where are those sugary snacks tonight?
Yeah. I
Thank
do,
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you're welcome to stay, but it's okay if you don't.
It's quite a
Appreciate you.
It is. No snacks, no overtime.
I miss you on Wednesday.
Or go catch some of the band concert.
No snacks,
Yeah.
no overtime.
What will I do on Wednesday?
Tell me how my kid's doing in the band concert.
Which, the high school band tonight?
Yeah, it's the collage concert.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really sad.
I'm so
All
sad I
right,
love
we're
Percy
still having a
Jackson.
board meeting.
Okay,
people.
sorry.
We are still.
Can I take a break?
Informational items, how the
Your mics are live, people. Your mics are live, people.
organization
You know, we gotta play a little bit.
support the youth of
So-
McFarland, and I'll turn the floor
I'll
over
tell you,
to
it's warm though.
Sure. Again, I think many of you know that we have three service organizations here: the Lions, the Lioness, and the Optimist Club. And I'd just like to talk about the Optimist Club and the Lions Club. As we know, throughout the year, they have numerous fundraising events. And sometimes you don't fully realize what the outcome has been for our students here in our school district. So I just want to go down a list of things that both of those organizations have contributed to, I would say, the success of students here in our school district. And this is on an annual basis. I'll talk about the Lions Club first. They provide $10,000 worth of scholarships for seniors. They have 4 or 5 $2,000 scholarships. Vision screening for our younger students at Conrad Delvium.
They still do that?
They do a community food drive that goes to the food pantry that impacts our students here, our families here, and they do that twice a year. They provide funding for 1,000 books before kindergarten to help kids really start with a keen interest in literacy you know, and they start with picture books, and then they work up. And if they read 1,000 books before kindergarten, they receive a certificate. What a great way to sort of accelerate the literacy progress of kids. They provide eyeglasses to those students who require them. They do Stuff the Bus every August, and they provide school supplies to each of the 4 campuses here. They make a significant donation to the McFarland Youth Center, which directly benefits students at the middle school here. They provide funding for Shop with a Cop, where they pull our students to shopping before Christmas. They sponsor a peace poster contest for middle school students, and our top students have gone to the state several times.
Went to a national,
Yes.
national level.
They provide bike helmets for our students. They provide the McFarland ED Lock Library, library book and activity kits. And they certainly are one of our big sponsors for the weekend snack sacks that benefit about 45 to 50 families here in McFarland. The Optimist Club, again, another community service. They provide three scholarships in the amount of $3,500 total for the 3 to high school seniors. They make donations and do food drives for the food pantry again. They provide the funding, significant funding for the McFarland Youth Center, again, benefiting our middle school youth. They conduct the bike safety rodeo in conjunction with the police department to talk about safety, and they provide bikes and pumps and helmets for those that participate. They have initiated a Cuddle Up with a Book program as of 3 years ago, where they promote literacy for early readers all the way up through high school. And they're all developmentally appropriate books. They put them in pillowcases that the community has sewn, and they're attached, a little flashlight is attached to it. They disperse those through the food pantry. And I think at Christmas time, they dispersed like 60, and now the food pantry has asked for another 80. So we do get those books into the hands of kids. We do the Indian Mound Middle School Student of the Month, recognizing outstanding students. We sponsor the McFarland High School Senior of the Month, where one senior is recognized each month for outstanding attitude, behavior, outcomes.
Teachers can.
Nominated by teachers, but anyone in the community can make a nomination. This year we had Valentine's Day free bingo for families. We do weekend snack sacks. The Optimist Club organizes that in the amount of $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year for select families in K-8. We help resupply the McFarland Little Libraries with the Cuddle Up the Book things. We do a trunk or treat along with the PTO, talking about social safety out there. We do funding with the Shop with the Cop, and we adopt a family here at McFarland around the Christmas time. So those are just the end products of all the fundraising that those 2 clubs do. I just wanted to acknowledge that without them, we'd be in a different place altogether with the kids.
My father was, if not a charter member of the
That's right.
McFarland
Yep.
Lions, but he was a member for 40, plus years. Well aware of the Lions from the get have been incredibly generous in this community. I mean, they've touched this community in every way possible over the years. They have a rose sale. There's just, I actually had a question too. Do the Lions and Lioness work in tandem on some of these things?
Yes, they do.
Separate?
They're separate entities, but they join hands for certain things.
Okay. Well, they're much appreciated. I know that. The whole gazebo, the McFarland
Gazebo?
Park, Larson Park.
Larson, Arnold Larson Park.
Yeah,
Yep.
Arnold Larson Park down there, that was the Lions. They built the gazebo. And that property was a badger petroleum place, and I can't even imagine what the ground, situation was. But they went through all of that in order to make this, park a reality. the Lions are amazing. And like Tom says, if it were not for what those two groups do for the school would be different. We've become, I guess, used to it over the years. They're just, you know, everything they do is for the good of the community. And
Yes,
part
it
of
is,
that
yeah.
is, part of the community is the schools.
I knew about every single thing that you mentioned, I knew about, but had no idea that they were all the Lions or then the Optimist Club. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And
So,
it's kind of unfortunate in that it's over the, I guess, last couple of decades probably, it's difficult to bring younger members into the organization for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a commitment thing, but the Lions, generally, their median age is probably pretty high.
it is high.
And I don't know what the solution is to get, you know, more young blood in it and, you know, reinvigorate it. But these are a bunch of gentlemen and ladies that are seniors that do a yeoman's job out there handling all of the, you know, the infrastructure that goes into providing all of these opportunities and gifts. But it's fantastic. Thank you very much.
I do think it's something that the board should think about, Tom. I really appreciate you bringing this forward. But just how we might be able to, as a district, truly recognize and thank those service organizations for all they do for our kids, because when you put that all together, and I know about all of those things, I knew about all those things, but when you put them together the way that you did, it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
I do think that it's something that maybe the board should,
Yeah.
I just encourage you to think about how we might be able to, as a district, truly thank
I like that idea.
them. That's not why they do it, but
No.
that's what they deserve, in a minimum.
Thanks.
Anything else? Moving on. School safety written drill evaluation notification and review per Wisconsin State Statute 118.074 CP. Mr. Turner.
Yep, so you can see in your packet, there are two administrative holds that occurred, one at Wabisa, one at CEPS, to protect privacy of students in crisis. Everything went very well. Always some lessons learned, but appreciate the staff for their care and concern, and just the way that they can quickly implement a process as needed. You know, 10 years ago, we couldn't. So, well,
And their ability to readjust things
yeah.
for their improvement. I really appreciate getting those, Aaron, even if it's just a sample, because it lends comfort to me to know that student safety is on the top of everybody's list. Student safety and student integrity also. And staff operate as a team
Yes,
in addressing some of this. So
That's-
thanks for providing that to us.
of course.
Okay, next, discussion. Board meeting self-review results.
So you have in front of you, and I'll share on our screen for the public, the summary from your results. Every few months, the board takes time to share your feedback on how you feel things are going for yourselves in terms of your performance as a board and how the meetings are functioning. Each year in April at our retreat, we'll do a full review on the functioning of the board. You will. So I'm just going to highlight a few things here and invite your discussion at the conclusion. Several strengths were noted by you in your results, and I typically look at about 80% saying fully achieved. That's a very high level. So the agenda is being provided in a timely fashion and including relevant information. I'll note that the agendas for each of the meetings being realistic to accomplish in the time allotted showed significant growth for you. So I wanted to highlight that. You went from 40% fully achieved, saying fully achieved, to 100%. So So a very significant increase there. The board packets, you're feeling that they're comprehensive without too much detail, focused on key facts, data provided in a timely fashion. The board members are coming prepared for meetings, you feel. Also, you feel like the right people are present at the board meetings to share information. Administrators are prepared to address topics. There are an area of growth here that I thought was interesting is opportunities for stakeholders to provide more input. You felt like that was something that we're doing better than you were in October. The opportunity to discuss things before deciding also increased, and you can see the model that we're using, that we started using for these heavier, more complex topics, having a presentation followed by a later vote instead of in the same meeting. I think that helps with that. Opportunities for public comments, they're following procedures, there's clear goals, very consistent there. Common goals, that the meetings are really evidence of the shared goals of the district. The participants, that the board members are respectful, professional. The consent agenda, feeling that that's a sufficient record, that was a nice increase. In terms of administration follow-up, you're feeling that the administration has clear things to follow up on and know what to do to take next steps. I did highlight an area that while it wasn't at the 80% fully achieved, it showed significant growth, and that was related to the board not encountering any procedural issues that interfered with the meetings or with taking action on any items. So kind of issues around rules of order, you felt that there was an increase in that. Still an area of growth. From your comments, you can see some themes that speak to what I just shared. Solid organization and planning, respectful and positive atmosphere, effective communication discussion, flexibility, being efficient, and also the administrative team being supported and accessible. When needed, can jump on a Zoom. And then in our areas of growth, and this is where you'll probably want to have some more discussion. Again, an area, this has been a repeated concern over time, at least in our discussions, is about the recognizing, really feeling like we could do more to recognize staff, students, and community members. So that's something I think you might want to come up with some ideas, and we can do that tonight or at a later point at your discretion. But really, in your comments, you didn't feel like there were any major concerns. A couple things were just making sure that we continue to share information. People reference specifically the way that Tom shares his reports and finding that as a good model to replicate in other areas. And in terms of procedures, still a little clunky at times. That wasn't the word used, but that's what I would attribute to Robert's Rules of Order. We have a kind of informal, formal process, but sometimes it gets in the way when we run into some changes. And the idea of making sure there's plenty of time for discussion, checking in with each member before a vote is made to just make sure you don't have to say anything, but is there anything you want to add, anything more you want to add, to make sure all voices are heard. So that was my findings and my summary of your results. Anything you'd like to share?
Go ahead. There's got to be something. Come on.
I continue to maintain that this is one of the most effective and pleasurable boards to serve with. Ditto.
And I agree, but I'm also a strong believer in there's no need to solve problems that don't exist. And as I went through this thing, I keep telling myself over and over, that's too good. I mean, I can't just keep putting all of this down, but I'll be darned if I'm gonna create areas that we need improvement. Obviously, no board or group is perfect in terms of, all of these things, but man, I have a hard time recalling anything, any initiative, major or minor, that wasn't handled appropriately. And this is my 15th year, and I honestly, I I cannot recall a vote that I regretted. And I think that's a testament to, you know, the vetting and the preparation beforehand, that it enables us to make informed decisions. You know, knowing full well that all of us at the end of the day, the students are, you know, what we're here for, you know, what this is all about. And we just have to make sure that we can figure out a way to do it as best we can. And I think we're all like-minded. I think that's probably a reason why, you know, never had a real problem getting consensus, you know, because we sit and talk about things.
Yep.
And we're not all the same,
No.
you know, and I think we all appreciate that. And we respect each other, and I don't know what more you can ask.
I find it a little sometimes difficult to fill them out, kind of perhaps the way you're mentioning, Crick. I'm going like, you know, are we getting enough information? Well, okay, there's times I've actually had to meet with you, Aaron, because I didn't quite understand something as well, or I thought there could have been a little bit more information about it. But I sat there, so do I go 80%? Do I go 100%? And, you know, I always do these things, and then I go back and do it again, and it comes up slightly different, but I think I'm quibbling over little tiny, whatever. I'm just glad we do them. I think it's really important that we do these. This does make you think about things.
Yeah.
Well, and we all have different strengths, I think.
Yeah.
You know, well, we all have similar strengths, but, you know, we're all our own people. And
Yeah.
you know, there's no carved in stone way to get from point A to point B, and everybody has an opinion and a perspective. And as long as, you know, we all respect that about each other, pretty copacetic, I think.
Yeah, and I've said this before, you know, I feel very proud to serve on this board. I think it's an exceptional board. There's always room for improvement. And I think Aaron had mentioned a couple of things here that we probably should address maybe at a later date. But one thing that I find very effective is the high level of respect that we each have, even though we might disagree on some things. But just as important, Aaron is a great resource person.
True.
You know, if we have questions, yeah, he can answer most of them. If he doesn't have the answers, he'll get back to us immediately the next day. So that reaffirms, you know, a lot of the decision-making that I feel I'm involved with. So I would just say, let's continue along the path that we are in, and just take a look at a couple items that we can improve upon.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Anything else? Okay.
So when will we talk about those things for, you know, that recognition of students and staff?
So a couple of ideas for you
Yes.
to consider. We could do it at a future board meeting in open session. We could also do it during the upcoming
Oh.
April work session.
That would be
I like
nice.
that idea. That's what I would go with,
Yeah.
That's
the work
been-
session.
As long as I can remember, that is an item for improvement every year.
Yep.
I
Let's
think
fix
we
it.
try harder every year, you know, to be better about recognizing folks that don't get, you know, all
Yeah.
of the high levels of, it- I feel like recognition, although it should be easy, you know, I've always found
I
it
know.
much easier to commend somebody on a job that they've done or a project that they finished than to go the other way, you know? And I think we've made tremendous strides in knowing each other and being able to reach a consensus without necessarily forcing any changed minds.
I think we'll, you know, think about it. We can talk about it during the work session, and let's fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've always come to the conclusion
Perfection.
that it's possible that as a form of recognition, time off would be the most appreciated gift. That's awfully hard to do. a time off over and above what is already on the calendar.
Sure.
But, I don't know if money is a motivator, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think staff just want to be acknowledged and recognized for the work that they do.
Don't you think they are?
Well, I think,
Well,
maybe if this helps, so when I answered this question, I was specifically thinking about that time during our school board meetings when when Aaron has done
Yes.
his district recognition.
It is.
And giving more effort to that. Because I did this from my perspective, this is no judgment on anyone else, but I know I could do a better job of that. In part because I know that if I did it just based on what I see now, I'd probably see a lot of repeats just because of what my kids are involved in, what I tend to,
I understand.
attend and things like that. And I think it would also encourage me to get outside of that circle more, to meet that goal of trying to get into more of the schools and more of the events. So that was my perspective. So yes, I think,
I'm right there.
yeah.
I like that idea though, too. That's true, that, that's something we kind of breeze over every now and again. And God, these kids and staff and they're doing so much, and it's so much good stuff. The things that go on in the school, it's predominantly awesome. It's just the small hiccups that occur in, any organization or district or, whatever, and it's how you handle that. And I think part of the reason that our school is the way it is because of the way that administrations and boards have worked together.
For sure.
And that's not
Yes, for sure.
necessarily typical.
Right.
There are
That's
people
accurate.
that firmly believe that the only effective board for a school district is one that takes on an adversarial role. And so from the get, there's this, and it's just never been that way here. I would assume that maybe before I, was uber involved, that there was some negotiations in the past that were less than pleasant. But, I haven't heard of any, awful things that went on, but as long as I've been involved, my 15 years on the board, our relationship with our staff and our union is incredible.
And I would agree with that.
It's always been amicable. And I just think things are easier to accomplish and, looking at it from that perspective.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on. Okay?
Yep.
District administrators report.
All right, time to give some recognitions.
Oh, there you go.
Conferences. Oh my gosh, our conferences, a lot of work for our teachers. Yes, thank you families for coming to conferences. The amount of time that our teachers prepare for families, making sure there's things to show and that they're able to give a good holistic picture of somebody's kid. They know that how important those are to families, and they take them seriously and put in a lot of extra time. So thank you so much to our staff for your commitment to providing that valuable conference experience. I also appreciate our administrative team that is listening to families, listening to staff about the best model. There's no perfect way to do conferences. There's never enough time to do them, and they try to balance all those needs. So thank
Do we
you.
still do some virtually?
Yes.
That was kind of a COVID leftover that I think a lot of staff liked.
Well, it's really more about families. They like it if the families like it. I think it's pretty
Offers more
efficient.
flexibility.
Shout out, you saw a little bit about Youth Art Month, just a wonderful time and just a great, if you haven't been to the E.D. Locke Public Library, thank you for hosting, and please check those things out
Amazing.
before the month ends. Thank you, board members. Many of you came to the legislative listening session with our local representatives. I got a little message of thanks from Senator Royce today. And just appreciate you being there to hear what was shared and be a part of that process. It's important for your voices to be heard. We had the Solo Ensemble Festival, about 170 high school
That come off without a hitch?
performances. Of course.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I drove down by here. And
It's
I
a
mean,
miracle.
They were parked across the street.
Oh, yeah.
The
And honestly,
shopping
it's,
center.
I mean, we've been to, my kids are in the musics, so we've been to several of them, and ours has always run so smoothly.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is either.
It
'cause
is,
it's
I
controlled
don't know
chaos.
how that scheduling works.
One dad said that his daughter had to sing 7 songs over the course of the day.
Yeah.
Well, the music departments that are involved in the 15 schools work well together, and ours are very organized, our music professionals. And also the music boosters do a lot
Yes.
with
They do.
the event to help make it successful. So
yes.
they take a lot of pride in providing a good experience for
Yes.
our visiting students and families. So appreciate that. There was a choir concert, a middle school choir concert. I wasn't able to attend, but I'm sure that was amazing. Heard good things. The kindness retreat at the 5th grade was last week. Unfortunately, I was out sick, but you have high school students, right, that come over and help with the 5th graders during that experience. Wanted to recognize Jeff Mahoney. He shared his expertise regarding our implementation of a new camera system that we're using. He presented at the Brainstorm Educational Technology Conference. So, yeah, a really neat presentation about how we chose the system that we're using, why we chose
Is
it,
that
and how it's been
available?
working for us. I have the slideshow if you want to see it.
That would be interesting.
It's a great system that we're using. It's really made a difference for us safety-wise. Becca Hulse, I wanted to recognize Becca. I wasn't able to attend this session. I was under the weather, but she presented a presentation she had attended from the National Association of School Psychologists about resilience and well-being and preventing burnout for educators, and she shared that information and an opportunity with staff, and is going to do that again. So I thought that was really neat that she went out of her way to do that.
Awesome.
Angie Bazan coordinated a speaker on the Holocaust. It's one we've had before. Marty returned to share his father's story, who was a Jewish partisan, who fought against the Nazis. And that's a very powerful story that
That's a moving
is shared.
experience.
Yeah, that happened. So thank you to Angie for that. We also had a generous donation, and it was in care of Jan Hartwig for Alpha Gamma, who donated for negative lunch accounts.
Oh,
So
nice.
appreciate that, thinking of that for our students. Wanted to give a special shout out to Brittany Brazel and Darian Riggins, coordinators here in the district office, who this week are finishing up their final week of teaching life skills at Conrad Alvian Primary School. They took on that role with the reduction of the associate principal position, and it allowed freed up time for student services staff. So they've been teaching at CEPS the life skills curriculum, and given that they will not be in that role next year, they're starting to transition to new student services staff, starting to teach it. So they wanted to start transitioning now, and so they're finishing up their time there. Both of them are by training and experience high school teachers. So
Great
they have
experience.
learned a lot,
Yeah.
and just really appreciate
I
them
bet
doing that.
they have enjoyed it also. though.
Yes, oh yes, yeah, they
Nothing
have,
like little kids.
yeah. I think it's good too for the staff there, just to see, people with, that they know are high school teachers, kind of going, whew, this is a lot. Let's just not trade places, so,
And I think the students benefit also.
yes.
Yeah, because those two individuals bring a whole different perspective.
Yep.
And I know there's a curriculum to follow, but there's nuances when they present.
Definitely.
So, and like you said, Aaron, it's a good model for all staff to take a look and know that there's district office staff coming into the classrooms.
Yep, well said. A few photos from around the place. You had the music, first grade music show here. See Olivia there with a student. Wonderful program there. Also, we're gonna have a little bit of math focus, so this is middle school, Math 24. It's such a cool game, Math 24. And the students have been practicing and competed in that event. I think there's actually a picture in the Thistle today of that. Here's 4th and 5th grade, Math 24 teams. So it's a great tradition here, and it takes a lot of coordination, so thanks to our educators for doing that and taking the groups. Math meet teams as well in the regional math meet. That's the one I think that's in the paper, actually, this one. The 2 teams that competed against 6 other area teams. So we always do very, very well.
You got some smart kids.
Yeah, we do. Thanks to the PTO, they provide food for conferences for staff, and they so appreciate it. They've been doing more boxed meals, which is really well received. And we know it takes a lot of work, and so thanks for those donations. This is just the one at WIS. You can see the couple pictures from Family Fun Night. You can see the making crepes, as they say.
And those are not easy
I
to
say
make.
crepes, and yeah, but having fun with it and some fencing there going on. So I heard over 500. Oh, it says that over 500 people. I heard that too. So very exciting, well-attended event. Hockey team, what a great game. They played so well, they lost to the eventual state champs.
That's right.
The hair.
And they actually scored more.
All of the teams did it.
Yeah.
Oh, all of them?
Oh.
Yeah, it was kind of the thing to do.
Yeah.
They did it the best, I
Yeah,
would
they
say.
did.
Do you want to know why? It's because they used toner.
They used toner so it didn't turn orange.
Exactly.
There's your hair obsession.
Somebody came
Huh?
up with
There's your hair
antidote
obsession.
to the
Yeah,
orange
it's
hair.
I'm obsessed
very
with hair.
important, but congratulations to them on a great and a classy team that showed a lot of class and a great community support as well.
Just take a walk down to the pool and check out those trophy cases.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. The student council had collected cereal. I remember they did that last year, 512 boxes of cereal to donate.
And I know the pantry really appreciates
Yeah.
this.
They do.
Do you have space down there for all
No.
the cereal?
Well, they had-
Judy
you know
brings
what
some of
that
it
was
home.
last year?
She
Yeah,
has
they
it in
did.
her own, in her,
They just got to store it,
yeah.
rotate it in.
A
It
satellite
preserves.
storage.
It preserves. Yeah, and then you have the string fling. I know we've mentioned before. So a couple shots of that from that event. The Girl Scouts donated through a bench through the Nutrex Community Recycling Program. So sustainability and providing a function. Now, I think that's probably the longest those two have ever sat in the same place. They don't sit.
I've never seen them sit,
Yeah.
yeah, except when they're watching
They are
the
busy
swimmers.
Very cute.
We better move that bench.
Yeah, that's right, right under the sign. And of course, I mentioned about Youth Art Month as well. Nearly 1,500 students taking
Never cease
required
to
art
amaze
classes.
me
So,
how talented
I know.
Very
those
good.
kids are.
also Music in Our Schools Month, and of course, we're well known for our outstanding music program that we have. So those are what I wanted to share, some things coming up, and then the board can share any recognitions. Reminder, it is still Women's History Month, still Youth Art Month, and Music in Schools Month. We also, let's see, tomorrow is the Great Hunger in Ireland Day that is recognized by the state, and also Reality Zone, which you mentioned earlier. Wednesday is an educator recruitment fair in Cambridge that Melissa Foll and I will be attending. We will have some positions for next year. We're hoping to get the best candidates. Last year we ended up getting somebody we hired from that. Very fair. Coming up on Thursday, we have Employee Relations Committee where we'll be looking at possible handbook changes for next year, spring break. And then next month, We've got National Autism Acceptance Month, Hmong Heritage Month, Arab American Heritage Month, National School Library Month, National Bilingual Multilingual Learners Advocacy Month, Occupational Therapy Month. That's a lot of months.
They get a whole month.
Yeah.
Geez, wow.
It's a busy month.
April
Speech and language,
Fool's
it's
Day
1
is
week.
Election Day, for real. We do have two,
For real, not a joke. Not a
we
joke.
have several local elections. As you saw, if you didn't see the candidate forum, I watched during my illness, kept me awake.
Fine school board candidates.
Yeah,
Yes, there
two
are.
school board members and we have village trustees and village presidents, so. Well organized, thank you, Chamber. I
Yeah,
will see them
yeah.
tomorrow and I will be sure to thank them. We also have the 4K Spring Craft Night coming up on the 3rd. It's the end of the 3rd quarter, which mostly applies to the middle school, but it means we're halfway through
Second
the
semester.
second semester. School Librarian Day is on April 4th. The high school music Los Angeles trip is coming up, the 4th through the 8th, going to LA. And we're back here on the 7th for a school board meeting. Those are my recognitions. Anything the board wishes to share?
I just want to say, these are outstanding, what you're presenting here. I think you do an outstanding job.
Thank you. It is a privilege.
I would just like to acknowledge Karen Manley and Greg Nelson, who are here tonight,
Yeah.
as part of the committee that presented, representing the schools. Because I know that took a lot of their time, and they don't have a lot of extra time.
No.
So I appreciate
Nobody has
that.
extra time, but you always manage to find those that are willing to do more.
What's
It's
it?
hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do more than what's going on today.
Ask a busy person.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about having Karen and
I would like to thank you all for celebrating St. Patrick's Day with me today
I thought about
and putting
it.
up with my shenanigans. It's, you know, it's fun. It's in a big holiday in our house, so it's
Good.
fun to be
Well,
here.
Sorry to keep you away from
Oh.
celebrating.
It's fine. If I'm not there, I'm happy to be here.
You're full of
And-
malarkey.
And I would, she's not going to appreciate this, but I'm also would like to recognize Melanie over there, who has been in our audience since the day she became engaged in the community, and she's in so many community events and really encourages the community to get out and be engaged. And we need more people like that. So thank you.
We do. We probably don't acknowledge you enough. You helped us.
immensely.
You helped us a lot.
And I don't think she
Important to be
sleeps.
engaged.
I don't know if she sleeps.
She's
or
like
not.
you, though. I don't think you sleep either.
I know.
I know she's pretty smart.
Yeah.
And I would like to suggest that maybe we implement a dress code in the future.
Oh,
Something
heavens.
formal like this or something informal like that.
Oh, you would like both ends of the spectrum. Is that what you're saying?
But we'll take a
Do
we need to stand on the
somewhere.
wall?
It was-
On how we
yeah.
feel about a dress code?
Let's address that at the work session.
I will say
on
the
the agenda.
committee members they did ask, they said, well,
Yeah.
what should we wear to the board meeting? And I said, wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think you both modeled that.
That's true, we did. We're-
Yeah.
we
No, we
role
just
modeled.
appreciate them showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was a nice
right?
It's amazing.
Doesn't matter what they wear.
No.
Yep.
I just hope a good number of people watch.
I do too.
They will.
Do your best to promote it, I'll do my
Great
best.
information.
I think we can get a lot of viewership if we publicize that we're taking a vote on this on April 7th.
Yep.
Because a lot of people are interested in it,
Yep,
either way.
yeah, for sure.
Well, we could have watch parties.
Also true.
We can't, because
Well, we could, but
Yeah.
other people could have a
Yes.
watch party.
That's true.
That's right. I'll talk to the chamber about organizing something.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
joke.
Yeah, are you through with your report?
I'm so through.
All right. We
Thank
have a couple
you, Aaron.
Action items here. The first is action on Dane County School Consortium withdrawal from interagency agreement. Aaron, do you want to give some background on this?
Yes, I'm going to provide some context for the viewers. The board is aware of this. So the school district has been a part of the Dane County School Consortium for many years, and that is really where there's 16 area districts that come together, that work together to provide youth apprenticeship programs in their respective districts. And McFarland's certainly one of the highest use of the youth apprenticeship program. So we have over 70 students involved in the program. And what has happened is with a consortium like that, where we all kind of work together, there has to be a fiscal agent that sort of receives the grant funds, distributes money, moves between them. And that has been the Monona Grove School District. And last year, they indicated that they no longer felt that they had the capacity to serve in that role. And so they did the proper procedures to indicate that, and looked for volunteers from one of the other districts to serve as a fiscal agent and assume the administrative responsibilities. And at this time, there hasn't been any other district who has agreed to serve as the fiscal agent, McFarland included. And I can speak only for the McFarland School District to just say that given the size of our district office, we don't feel that we have the capacity to assume that role and the responsibilities that are involved in managing the financial transactions, reporting requirements, and compliance with these various state and federal guidelines.
We already run very lean.
We try, and that's our responsibility to be fiscally responsible. Certainly, what that has left is all of us districts needing to kind of decide what the next steps are, and it looks like a possible dissolution of the Dane County Dane County School Consortium. And so there's a couple ways to look at this, and you have the opportunity to take action on this tonight. The first is that we have an opportunity for the district to make a decision tonight for the district to withdraw from the Dane County School Consortium. So you do need to provide 90 days notice prior to June 30th to do that, which means we're running up onto that deadline to do that. And that would just mean that as of June 30th, we would no longer be a member of the Dane County School Consortium. And I'll talk about what that'll mean in a minute. The other thing is that as districts are looking to leave, I'm asking the board to give me the authority, should there be a call for a vote to dissolve the school consortium, that you would authorize me to vote in the affirmative to dissolve the consortium. If the consortium does end up dissolving, then the fund balance, the balance of the funds are then dispersed to all the districts after that point.
So it looks like we've got two motions to make.
Yeah, there's two separate action items on our agenda for tonight.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I want you to know and the public to know is that the youth apprenticeship program continues. What it means is that we will need to find some way to support Penny Thompson, who is our very talented, dedicated CTE coordinator, who already provides a lot of work for our youth apprenticeship program. There's additional responsibilities that our district will assume in order to facilitate our portion of the grant. Department of Workforce Development is prepared for that. A district of our size, and more importantly, a youth apprenticeship program of our size, has the capabilities to justify that. And that's what most of the districts are planning to do at this point, is to assume the responsibilities, at least in the short term, for that. And so what it allows us to do is to take some of the funds that we receive from the grant, and we will no longer be giving those funds to Dane County School Consortium to facilitate, and we would provide an opportunity for us to pay for some support for Penny to coordinate that work, or pay for Penny, although there's only so many hours in the day. And she works a lot. And so the opportunities for the board tonight are to, I think the first question is an opportunity for the board to determine if they would want to withdraw from the Dane County School Consortium. And then the second opportunity is to give me the authority to vote for the dissolution of the Dane County School Consortium, should it be coming up for a vote. I will tell you that, including during this board meeting tonight, I have received indications from other boards that they are doing the same. And most of us are on that timeline of bringing it to our boards either last week or this week before break.
Anybody have any questions for Aaron?
Aaron, you talked about this is part of a grant. What is the duration of the grant?
So it's a 2-year grant
A 2-year,
cycle,
okay.
that we're on. We're kind of actually in the middle of the year, but this is an ongoing grant process. It's one of those ways that the state facilitates the transfer of funds. And so we'll be working directly with the Department of Workforce Development, who the Dane County School Consortium works with now.
So, so they'll be receiving 16 grant applications instead of just one?
Possibly.
Is that correct? Okay.
Possibly, yeah.
Yep,
And who would write the grant for our district?
Penny.
Peggy?
Okay.
Yep, and Penny's already on that.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, I would look for a motion to with,
I move to authorize the McFarland
Yes.
School District to withdraw from the Dane County School Consortium Interagency Agreement.
thank you. Do I have a second?
Fessler can second that.
Kessler will second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. And now, I would look for a motion that would authorize our district administrator to vote in favor of the dissolution of the consortium.
Sure, I'll move to authorize, I move to authorize McFarland, the McFarland superintendent to vote in favor of the dissolution of the Dane County School Consortium intra-agency agreement, if such a vote occurs.
Very good. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you, Bruce. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then we have action on the recommended WEVA Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin, Wisconsin Statute 118.408G, student transfers to resident districts. At this time, WEVA, Destinations Career Academy, and Insight School of Wisconsin are requesting approval of the recommended student transfers back to their resident districts due to a lack of engagement. If you are in favor of this recommendation, I would look for a motion.
I can do that. I move to approve the WEVA, the Destinations Career Academy, and the Insight School of Wisconsin recommended student transfers back to their resident districts due to lack of engagement.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I can second.
Thank you,
Chapman.
Discussion?
Aaron, have you heard anything about, I thought I read somewhere, there is a bill that's being proposed. So if kids leave, let's say virtual school, oftentimes they're in limbo, that they're gonna try to change that somehow? Have you heard
I
anything like
have
that?
not heard that.
Okay, I thought I read that somewhere, but
I know we
When they're
would love that to be
between-
the case.
when they're between
WEVA and their
home school district, yeah.
school
Yeah.
district, and their home school districts, are they obligated to accept them back?
If
Yep.
the people re-enroll
Yep.
them. So I think what I would say we would argue, and that the Wisconsin Virtual Academies would argue, is that instead of it being, yes, we're transferring you back to your home district, but they need to re-enroll, would be that it would happen electronically, so that they're automatically transferred back to the roles of their home, like they're automatically re-enrolled, I think, is what, and then they're the responsibility of the resident district, and they're saying, you're not coming, we need to get you here. But right now it is, go re-enroll in your
Right, yeah.
resident district.
Where you may very well have had issues, that maybe the
Possibly.
reason you went to a virtual school is because, you had compatibility issues with brick and mortar.
Right.
So then,
So you're
At least
saying they're
then
not
someone's
necessarily doing that,
tracking it.
and that's.
Yeah, I mean,
then that's the
it's up to the
problem.
families on
Yeah.
whether or
Yeah.
not they do that, and if not, then they are what Tom was just saying, out in limbo.
Well, and if you look at how few parents actually attend
The
that
conference.
last conference, it's easy to assume that next appropriate re-enrollment steps probably aren't being made either.
That's probably a good assumption. Again, I'll do the figures here. Again, what we are presented are the numbers. We're talking about more than numbers here. We're talking about children. There's one second grader,
That's a bummer.
one fifth grader, one sixth grader, 3 seventh graders, and 7 eighth graders. So these are youth, pre-adolescent children. They're human beings. I just want us to, reflect on that. We have to talk about numbers when we're dealing with students. But that's my only comment.
Well, and I think what I took from, because we don't see students in those grade levels very often on these reports anymore.
Correct.
So kind of what I take from that is that these students, that WEVA has really been doing everything they can to not have these
Well, they-
students,
yes, they
to
have.
engage these students and to not have them on the list. So these are,
But the question is, can we do more?
I know, yeah.
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 But I agree. I mean, their efforts have increased multifold over the past 3 years probably, so.
Yeah.
okay. Then, in that case, we've got a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. And I believe that takes us to adjournment.
Can I do one more recognition before we jump to
Yes,
that? I'm
you
sorry,
can.
I just thought of it. But the milling project, I know Aaron included this in
yeah.
our thing, but the coverage that it's gotten, and then the partnership between the
Village
school
Bill.
district and the village, but that podcast on the, usfarmreports.com?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That was such a cool thing to listen to, and it was Pennicamp, right? Who was,
Steve.
yeah, that represented us. That was really, I just want to shout out to him, because he spoke so highly of the whole process, and like, that we're modeling for other school districts. And
Oh, for
that really
sure.
deserves
They-
a shout
I
out.
think they have other school districts that have.
Come
reps
down?
Their students come down and
Yep.
watch.
They have.
Yep.
When
A
Travis
couple of them, 2 or
told me
3.
about that, I just, oh my goodness. I mean, what a phenomenal thing to do and to have happen. And we should make sure that people know about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
Megan, thank you
Yep.
for.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But again, I think this is a reflection, starting with the board and the administration and then the teaching staff, working well together, listening to the teachers, because they're, right there, they know what they need and what they want, what the students need. And as a board, we generally support all that.
Yep, exactly.
That's what happens when you have, good people
Mhm.
in the right places. Our tech ed, our DECA, they are second to none. And this is little, 700 student McFarland out there against some significantly larger districts that we don't take a back seat to in any way. I think, I think McFarland's a pretty good place.
It's a great place.
Place to
Yeah,
land.
it is.
I haven't left. I landed 60 years ago. Okay, anything else? I I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I can make that motion.
Thank you, Bruce.
And
Go ahead.
I will second. Chapman.
Thank you, Chapman.
It's a good thing we don't have a third Megan on here, on this board. Watch out.
Okay,
Two is enough.
I know, right? That's
One
why
is
Tom's
enough.
like, peace out.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are, looks like 9:30 on the button. We adjourn.
Aaron, thanks for bringing that.
Yeah.
Excellent.